Welcome to Pale Blue Pod, the astronomy podcast for people who are overwhelmed by the universe but want to be its friend.
It's true. And I'm Corinne Caputo, writer, comedian, and friend of the universe. For sure.
Hell yeah, you are. I am Dr. Moiya McTier. I'm an astrophysicist and folklorist, and yes, also a friend to the universe.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I feel like I would call the universe if I were like drunk and stranded in Brooklyn or something.
Yeah, the universe called me actually the other day and said you were friends.
It was the universe complaining like, it's Moiya chick. She's always calling me and asking me to put her in a cab.
Yeah, exactly.
Today, listeners, is a very special episode. We have our first ever Pale Blue Pod guest. We are joined today by... Holy shit, I'm so sorry. What is your full name?
It's okay. I tend not to go by my full name on the internet. So my name is Morgan Johnston. I did want to give a quick shout out to your music person, Evan Johnston.
Yes, I was just about to say.
We are not related in any way, but people constantly mispronounce my name. Even when I graduated from undergrad, they called me Morgan Johnston as I walked across the stage. And I was like...
Always.
But I wanted to shout you guys out for always including the T on his name and not my name.
So. Yes, I love that.
Yes,
I'll have to tell
Morgan
him.
Johnston.
Morgan Johnston. As soon as you said it, I was like, Evan Johnston.
Yes.
The connection. But no relation. So Morgan Johnston is a neuroscientist, and we are going to be talking about the intersection between space and brains today, which is so exciting. But first, Morgan, can you tell us where we're recording this episode?
Yes, I am so excited to show you guys around the very first lab that I ever joined. So a lot of people don't think of a lab as like a happy, inviting space, but for me, research came into my life at a very like vital time, and the lab was sort of my happy place where I went to relax and hang out. So I just finished feeding some of my cells. I put some new media in, and the media kind of looks like red Gatorade and smells a lot like bone broth. I know,
Yum.
and it's very tempting to drink, but I've heard it tastes mostly like salt. I haven't drank it personally.
Of course. I mean, so does bone broth, really.
Right? That would be the first thing I did. Like, as soon as I learned it was safe to consume, I would have.
I don't think it is safe to consume, but I definitely...
There are a
There's
few
a-
very brave scientists out there who are willing to risk it all.
Yes, there are many stories of researchers drinking things we're very much not supposed to.
That's what we do. We're curious people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't blame them.
Nice. So what are some of the things we're seeing around this lab?
So, of course, the lab has the very beautiful fluorescent lighting that all academic buildings do.
Of course.
There may or may not be a cockroach in the corner, but it's fine. I have spray. I'll protect you guys. And there's lab benches all around, and most importantly, one of our lab techs just started a pot of coffee, but the coffee pot has not been cleaned in like 10 years, so you're more than welcome to a cup, but I would not recommend it.
It's closer to sludge or like...
Exactly. And
You're painting such a great picture.
This is all true facts from the very first lab I was ever in.
Even the cockroach in the corner, who I hope was like a collaborator on a paper or something.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you have to give everyone full credit.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do.
I've never been in an academic building that doesn't have cockroaches.
No, there are so few.
Yeah, my current university actually just very recently built a new building, and it already has cockroaches, so it's...
Isn't that crazy? They're going to outlive us all.
Is there something about what you're studying in those buildings? Because, like, in physics buildings, I didn't really come across many cockroaches, but we didn't have anything for them to eat, you know?
Ooh.
Like, we just had data on a computer screen. You have, like,
Bone broth.
brains and stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
so this might be a little gross to start off with, but actually the main insect that I've had a lot of encounters with is ants love brains.
Yes.
Like, they will... I've been in the process of like dissecting, and like just like there won't be ants, and then like a little line of ants will like come to me.
They're marching up.
Ants are zombies. That's what I'm hearing.
It scares me every time because I'm like, I don't know what you're gonna get from this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they're protein dense, right?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Brains are good.
That's why zombies ate them.
For part of our like sectioning process, we put them in sugar, so they are like basically just Jello with like extra sugar at that point.
Yum.
So delicious.
It feels like the menu. Like a weird thing that would have been in the menu.
I love that.
Well, thank you for giving us a tour of your lab, Morgan. I'm going to be keeping a watchful eye on that cockroach in the corner.
Yes.
And are there any brains out? Should we beware of any ants?
No, we don't have to worry about any ants. I made sure all the brains are put up in the fridge, but if you'd like, I can take you to my fridge full of brains. There's like that opening, you know, wherever you first open a fridge and there's like shelves on the side, it's just full of brains.
How fun.
Oh yeah, they look juicy. Those are some juicy brains.
They are.
Oh dear. All right, so now that we're in this lab, we're all acquainted, it is time to talk about the intersection of space and brains, and there are similarities or maybe extreme differences in the numbers that we have to deal with. I'm interested in how our fields have inspired each other. So let's start with the numbers. Like, what types of numbers do you typically deal with as a neuroscientist?
So in neuroscience, we're looking at very small numbers. So we're usually in like the millis, like millimeter, milliliter, like the 3 decimal places over, so 0.001. Sometimes though, we get all the way down to the microns, which is 1/1000th of a millimeter. And that's normally like if we're sectioning brains. So if I'm trying to get like a good slice of a brain, I'm sectioning at about like 30 microns. So a very, very thin section.
Were you like a slice?
Whoa.
Yeah. So the thing that we use to slice brains, I always compare it to like a deli slicer.
That's literally what I was picturing.
It's the exact same concept as a deli slicer, but frozen.
Oh, wow.
Why do they have to be frozen?
That just depends on which method you're using.
Okay.
So sometimes they're frozen to preserve them. Sometimes if you want to see some real gooey stuff, you can also use what's called a vibratome, and it basically vibrates the brain very quickly and vibrates the blade very quickly, and that's usually not frozen, so it'll sort of just like wiggle really fast and cut through it.
Whoa. I love that you said in the millis. I'm still thinking about that. I love that. Everyone,
Yes.
I feel like neuroscientists, do they have pets named Millie because of that? They should.
That would be very cute. I've seen a lot of cats named Purkinje, which is a type of cell, but it starts P-U-R, like purr.
Aww.
That's one of my favorites.
That's really
That
cute.
was great.
But yeah, so like one of the things that I think is really neat about like the intersection between neuroscience and like astrophysics is that neuroscientists do like a shocking amount of physics. I was really confused because physics was my worst grade in undergrad. I'm really not great at math, but the brain is an electrical organ, and so we have to do a lot of like electricity and magnetism stuff when we're learning about the brain.
Oh, and that's one of the worst physics classes too.
It was actually the only one that I did good in, so I think it makes sense that I went into it.
Yeah, you made the right call.
Yeah, I was like, this one kind of makes sense. I've seen a magnet before.
Yes. It wasn't a no-brainer. It was an all-brainer.
Oh my god, yes.
I'll see myself
was
out
good.
now. It's fine.
Bye, Moiya.
But yeah, so one of the very first things that we learned like is how our neurons communicate and the voltage of a neuron. So most of your neurons are sitting at like -70 millivolts, and so you have to learn a lot of those like -70, -60 millivolts, and that's sort of like the range that we stick around.
So when an individual neuron is firing, that electrical signal that it sends is at the 70 millivolt range.
So when your neuron's just chilling and nothing's happening, it's at the -70s. And then whenever it fires, it has to pass a threshold. And the threshold is normally around -50. And then it can get up to +40. And all of this is in relation to like the outside of the cell. So whatever is going on in the goo sort of surrounding the neuron.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering how do you get negative voltage? But I
Right?
get it now. It's all relative to the surrounding environment.
Exactly.
Okay. Cool. And like how many neurons do we all have?
A lot. So it's estimated, you get a variety of estimates. Used to, we would say like 100 billion neurons, but I saw a newer study that said like 86 billion neurons.
Whoa.
But in addition to that, so most people think like neuron is like the only type of cell that's in your brain, but there's actually neurons, and then there's a separate category of brain cells called glia, and there's about 85 billion of those. So I'm not great at math, but together you have around 200 billion.
Yeah,
nice.
I did see this whole TikTok recently about like, oh, scientists discovered a new layer of your brain, and I lost my mind for a second. I was like, there's no way that we didn't know. But it's okay. They were just like renaming something that existed, so everything was
Okay,
fine.
I know. I see TikToks like that a lot, where they're like, everything you knew is wrong, and this is correct.
when they
and I'm
say
like,
that.
I can't keep changing this.
Exactly. I was like, I'm a neuroscientist. Please don't make me change my field.
Please don't make me have an existential crisis, as I doubt everything I've ever learned.
Yeah, I put a lot of time into this.
But I saw something recently. I was watching this neurosurgeon talking about like someone asked him the question, you know, like, is rocket science or neurosurgery like harder? And neurosurgeons are a little full of themselves. I don't claim them. That's why I'm a neuroscientist. But he got real sassy about supposedly there are more neurons than there are stars in the Milky Way. And so he was trying to make that an argument for like why we're better. And I was like, but rocket scientists aren't really concerned about stars.
That's true. Rocket science is its own thing. It's more engineering and chemistry than astrophysics. But I was about to say, like, I think it's really interesting that these numbers of neurons that we have is on the same order of magnitude as the number of stars in the galaxy. So we say that there are anywhere between 100 and like a few 100 billion stars in the Milky Way alone. So no, he was wrong. But there are also about 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe. And I think it's really cool that this 100 billion number just keeps popping up.
Yeah, it all matches up really nice.
I feel like that's an older, like that trend in like competitive science fields. Not that these are competitive, but like to be like, I am better than that one. I feel like that is something I love about Pale Blue Pod and this, of like, we're like, no, everyone is doing great.
Yeah.
We don't need to win.
Well, something I say a lot is like, I love neuroscience. I definitely think it's hard, but like, I could never do astrophysics. So there's no way that I'm better than an astrophysicist.
Yeah.
And I could never do neuroscience.
Yeah.
No, me neither.
I would get too distracted by the ants, by the zombie ants eating the brains.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot messier than people tend to think it is.
Yeah, this is already shocking me. I briefly worked kind of sort of in a lab. I did like data entry at a research hospital during college. And there would be times when I was in the lab and I was always like, this is not for me. This is not my space.
Yeah. I always get really concerned whenever we get undergrads in the lab. I'm just like, I'm watching them like a hawk. I'm like, are you going to be okay with what we're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, they need the supervision for sure. When they're new to a lab environment, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff you can accidentally mess with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. What about the size of these neurons?
So neurons can really range. So the smallest neurons in a human brain are about 4 microns wide. So again, a micron is like a thousandth of a millimeter. And so it's 4 of those wide. Yeah, they're teeny tiny, and they're called granules because of like a grain. Like they're that small that we were just like, oh, these cells are the ones that are tiny, so they're granules.
Yeah.
I like the way you're naming people think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the biggest one in the human body actually goes from the bottom of your spine all the way to the top of your big toe, and that's called your sciatic nerve. So that's one cell that's going all the way.
Whoa, that's
a
one
single cell?
Yeah.
It's not like a string of cells?
Well, like, there's multiple cells that are, like, running side by side, but not, like, it's not like a chain of cells. It's just one cell.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like, is that, not that you need to know this, but I feel like that's an injury I hear a lot.
Yeah.
Or like that nerve getting damaged is like a pretty, upsetting injury to have.
Well, what's really interesting about the way that, like, your spine and your nerves work is that all of the ones that are going down your spine, they're, like, one long axon of a neuron that's going down. So like if you chop the spine at any point, any like injury that's gonna like hurt the spine, it hurts all of the ones that are down below it because you're essentially like cutting the middle of a bunch of neurons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is so cool.
Wow. I feel so fragile.
Yeah.
I'm in this body and I'm like, oh my gosh.
The human body is very fragile.
Yeah.
Even a lot of people get shocked whenever I say that the skull can actually give you a brain injury. And a lot of people get confused by that because the skull is supposed to protect the brain.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, like, our brain's just sort of floating around in the skull. And so if you get, like, say, like, whiplash, your head flies forward, you don't technically hit anything.
Skull?
Yeah, your brain's just gonna fly forwards and also hit the skull.
Mm-hmm.
And then it rebounds and hits the back of the skull too. And so you get 2 brain injuries.
Yeah.
Which is not funny, but it's interesting.
As a formerly very concussed person, I can attest that the skull is not always doing good things to the brain.
Yeah.
I love the way you identified there.
As a formerly concussed. Those are a big deal.
It's a big deal. I had 2 major concussions in college, one in high school, and I had those symptoms for a long time. I still get car sick. Like, my brain has changed because of it.
Yeah, the symptoms can stick around for a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The if you guys are into watching like the Oscar movies this season, Women Talking by Sarah Polley wrote and directed. It's based on a book, but she had taken a lot of time away from filmmaking because she had a really serious brain injury and was trying to recover and just like get to a place where she could function again, never mind like write and direct a feature. Very interesting interview with her on Script Notes if anyone listens.
That will go in the research notes for this episode.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Those injuries can be really debilitating.
Yeah, good for her for taking the time she needed.
I know. She was really, in that interview, she talks about some of the best, like, work she did. A lot of doctors had said, like, oh, if it starts to feel like too much, stop. But the best intervention she had was being encouraged to keep going, like, past that discomfort. And she was able to, like, work her tolerance up. And, yeah, it's cool. And the movie is great. Sad.
Yeah.
But good.
Sad and good can coexist.
It's going to make your brain a little sad, but it's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that can make your brain a little sad, one of the reasons that we made this podcast in the first place was to help people who feel some sort of dread or fear or anxiety around space, and especially the vastness of it. Can you talk about what's happening in the brain when people experience that?
Yeah, 100%. This is something I really wanted to look into because I am very much one of those people who, as soon as you throw a number over like 100, I'm going to be very overwhelmed by what's going on.
Right, because you work in the millis. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I understand tiny. I don't understand big. It scares me. But so this is just one theory of what's going on. We don't know for certain, but one of the theories that I think is really interesting is your brain has multiple ways of storing information, and the way that it stores factual information is separate from the way it stores more abstract information. And so if you ask someone to describe like the room that they're sitting in, they can describe what they're seeing, what they're smelling, what they can touch. All of that information is very factual to them. And so their brain is going to store it as a fact. But if you ask someone to describe, like, say, the entire continental US, that's very abstract, and they've likely not visited every place. And so even if you tell them a fact about the continental US, their brain sort of now has a decision to make between, now that I'm thinking about this abstract place, is this fact a fact or is it abstract? And so it might store it as fact, but it also might store it as abstract. So it gets even worse. Like, if we're talking about the Milky Way, no one's ever been to every single corner. And so it's a very abstract thought in people's minds. And so their brain has to decide, like, okay, we know this is a fact, but we don't know that the Milky Way is a fact. The Milky Way is abstract. So do we store it as fact or abstract? But what's really neat, and what's really neat about this podcast, is one of the ways to sort of get around that people have recommended is the more that you're exposed to something, the more that you hear about it, the more factual it becomes to you and the more concrete. So even if you hear, so even if you hear something the first time and your brain decides to store it as abstract information, maybe the 10th time it'll be like, you know, I've heard this enough times, I'm pretty sure this is a fact.
That's so cool.
I love that there's neuroscience to back up the whole motivation of
the
this
mission.
show.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I can feel that change in me.
Put that on your website.
Yeah. I feel like Moiya and I, one thing I like is when we're recording a new episode, we're kind of referencing or episodes we've already recorded. And it's just nice to have that information like said again and again, and you're like, oh yeah, that's real.
Exactly. And it can like build on it and stuff.
Oh, that's nice, because I often feel weird. Like I sometimes feel guilty about saying things multiple times, because I'm like, oh, well, these people deserve new information. But now that you say it, and I also know as a communicator that repeating things is valuable, because people don't learn things the first time. Like
right.
I don't learn things the first time. So yeah, this is just more reason for me to feel chill about repeating myself.
Yes,
You're doing
exactly.
more to take away that fear, give them very concrete feelings, something that they can see and hold in their hearts.
Hey, awesome. Thank you for explaining that to us. I really like that dichotomy, I guess, between the way our brains store the abstract versus factual. The dread or the anxiety, does it come from having to make that decision? I mean, I know it's not conscious necessarily, but does it come from having to make the decision about which file folder the thought goes into, essentially?
I don't think it's that up front in your head. I think it more comes from the things that we know less about are scary to us, and the things that are less concrete in our heads are scary. So yeah, because we can't fully picture it and we can't fully know it, that scares people.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I feel that way about just like getting people to understand things about the human condition, and it's like, oh, I just think you might not know enough about this, so your opinion is like just uninformed.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's like everything that people get exposed to. Yeah, well, the unfamiliar is scary to a lot of people. I'm a little weirdo, and if I see something I don't know, I'm gonna run towards it. As long as it's not like a horror movie, I'm gonna run towards it.
And that's what I'm here for, to recap a scary movie for you.
Yes, that's why our friendship works. Thank you, Corinne. All right. So now, can we talk about some of the ways that astronomy and space have influenced your field of neuroscience? Because you mentioned in your email some cell type that seemed very interesting.
Yes, I would absolutely love to talk about this. So that very first lab that I was ever in, my whole job in the lab was I was given this set of cells, and I had to feed them and look at them every day and count how many there were, and then just like give them different things to see how it affected their growing. And these guys are called astrocytes. And they're so beautiful. And so the first part of their name, the astro, is because the person who named them said, hey, these guys really look like stars. And they truly do.
What does that even mean? A star is just a sphere of gas.
Moiya, no.
What does that mean?
Stars look like the sun.
Which is a sphere of gas.
Haven't you looked directly at the sun and seen the perfectly shaped star inside?
Exactly.
No, because I'm smart and I know not to look at the sun. Listeners, do not look at the sun.
Unless you really want to.
Unless you're Donald Trump, don't look at the sun.
One very famous man did.
So
they and I'm using air quotes here, look like stars.
This is actually a question I had for you, because so stars are these like round balls of gas, but whenever we like look up in the night sky, or like whenever we draw a star, they have like little spikes to them. What are do those have a name, or is there something behind that?
Yeah, so it's less when you look at them with your unaided eye. You might see the stars twinkle with your unaided eye, but you're not really going to see them have those spikes or those spokes coming off of them. We do see that through telescope images, and you can see this really well with images taken with the JWST, whose full name I'm not going to say. So the Just Wonderful Space Telescope.
I've also heard the Jelly Welly Space Telly.
Jelly Welly?
I love that. Yes,
that's really
Jelly
cute.
Welly Space. So good.
I want like a little stuffed animal of that.
Yes.
Oh my God.
A little smile.
It's a little jellyfish operating a telescope.
Yes.
So good. But those are like an artifact of the way that light comes in through the telescope, almost like they're a diffraction effect. It is not what the star actually looks like. It's just how our telescope takes that image, especially when the star is on the edge of one of the pixels. It can bleed into the next pixel, and then you get these weird shapes
When I don't have my glasses on or my contacts in and I'm looking at light, there's always that like extra pieces to it that are...
Yes.
Oh, yeah, like if you have an astigmatism or something. Like I used to, before I started wearing glasses and before I knew I had an astigmatism, like the car lights or stoplights, they have those weird spokes coming off of them.
Yeah, that's my eyes too.
But that's, again, because of the way that your eye is processing the light. That's not an inherent feature of the light itself.
Alrighty, so maybe an astrocyte doesn't look like a perfect, beautiful round ball of gas, but it looks like what the telescopes perceive stars as. So it's essentially a round ball in the middle, but then it has all of these spikes coming off of it. And the spikes go to other neurons to snoop and see what they're up to. So sort of an astrocyte's main role is to sort of see what's up and also to help clean up. So the astrocytes will go over to where neurons are releasing neurotransmitter, which is just like a chemical they use to communicate, and it'll pick up some of that neurotransmitter like a vacuum. It'll take up all of the extra neurotransmitter, and then also sort of be like, okay, this is what you guys are releasing today. And we used to think that was all that they do, but now some more studies are looking at them doing some more like behavior things. Like my lab right now looks at how they play a role in like substance use disorder.
Oh,
so they do a lot of really important things.
Is it because it's sucking up all of the extra dopamine and serotonin that I need, and so I seek those things out through substances?
Actually, the opposite. It's like some substances that get spit out are inhibitory, which means that they're keeping the neurons from firing, and it sucks those up so then the neurons just continue to fire instead of like stopping like they're supposed to.
Yeah, okay. It's good to know what my brain's up to.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually, astrocytes make up around half of the brain cells. So,
wow.
I guess taking that like 86 billion from earlier, I guess that would mean there's about 40 billion astrocytes in your brain.
I will post a picture of one of these on our Instagram when we share, because I'm looking at a picture on Wikipedia and they are very cool.
They're beautiful. I think another way to describe them is more like snowflakes, because wherever you look at them like all next to each other, they're all a little bit different, but they have like the round center and then the little spikes coming out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hi, it's Corinne, here to give a shout out to our patrons who are supporting this podcast. It means so much to me and to Moiya and to everyone who helps make this show. So thank you, as always, to our Sun-like stars, Sharn Llewellyn, Finn, Ian Williams, and Megan Moon. And thanks to our latest pre-main sequence stars, Sean Klinsman and Ryden Forsyth. You can support us, hear your name on this podcast, and make it to our patron star chart, all by supporting us on Patreon for just about $1 per episode. Patrons get access to our research notes for every episode with extra resources about each week's topic, and the first 50 patrons will be entered to win a free, signed, and personalized copy of Moiya's book, The Milky Way, and we're so close to 50. So please consider joining now, getting in on our Patreon, getting in on Moiya's book, and then send it to your friends. Find the star chart, Patreon info, and more at our website, palebluepod.com, or go right to the source at patreon.com/palebluepod.
Hello, I am here to share some very exciting news about Multitude's membership program called the Multi-Crew. They are refreshing their tiers of support with brand new perks, and I'm going to tell you about it. They have the Insiders tier for $10 a month, where you get access to all things behind the scenes at Multitude. This includes a bonus monthly newsletter, access to our crew-only Instagram account, and first dibs on any and all Multitude updates that come down the pike. Plus, all Insiders get 10% off Multitude logo merch, always. There's also the Collectors tier for $20 a month. Collectors are now eligible for live show guest list tickets for all of Multitude's digital and in-person events, plus VIP meet and greets where available. And then you have the Founders tier for $50 a month. And Multitude loves our founders so much, they can't wait to spend more time with the founders. So that's where personal hangouts come in. Each founder can schedule a private digital hangout with Multitude hosts on an annual basis. These hangouts can include a game stream, private Q&A session, watch party, or more. And these hangout sessions last like 1 to 2 hours and, of course, are subject to host availability. The cool thing about this tier refresh is that you can now do annual or monthly subscriptions. So you get like a little discount if you sign up for an annual subscription at any of these tiers. If you want to get more involved with Multitude and get some of these amazing perks, then head on over to multicrew.club or multitude.productions/multicrew.
Okay, I just got an amazing package in the mail. It's a soy wax candle from Queer Candle Co. I got the redwood scent, and oh my god, it's so good. It's all the coziness of the holidays and all the happiness of a summer campfire in one jar. Queer Candle Co. is an incredible queer and trans-owned business specializing in small batch soy wax candles that are hand-poured with love. Candles are topped with a variety of botanicals like pressed flowers, dried herbs, zested aromatics. Mine has these gorgeous pressed flowers on top that were almost too pretty to use the candle, but it just smells too good. I gotta do it. And I almost exclusively buy candles in different like wood and forest scents, but I'm not kidding. I put all of the other candles away when this one came because I loved it so much. And I was thrilled to learn that they sell DIY refill kits online, so any candle is endlessly refillable, and no more sadness about finishing one, which I really struggle with. Who wants to get to the bottom of a candle? Queer Candle Co. is donating 10% of their monthly profits to the Sylvia Rivera Law Project, as if you needed another reason to order. So use the code PALEBLUE at checkout to get 10% off your first order at queercandleco.com, or find them on Instagram and TikTok at Queer Candle Co.
The fact that you're listening to this show tells me a couple things about you, and I can recognize those patterns because I am a scientist and an analytical thinking genius. But here are the things I know. 1, you're listening to an astronomy podcast, so you clearly like to learn. But 2, you're listening to specifically this astronomy podcast, which means you like to learn in fun and friendly and interesting ways. So please let me tell you about Brilliant.org, which is the best way to learn math and science interactively online. Brilliant has thousands of lessons in math, science, and data analysis, and they're adding new ones every single month. Brilliant doesn't just teach you facts and formulas. They actually help you develop your intuition for these subjects through interactive gameplay. So their science courses can help you get a deeper understanding of things we talk about a lot on here, like planetary orbits with their classical mechanics lessons, or particle physics with their quantum objects course. Whatever you learn on Brilliant, you'll have a fun time doing it, and it will strengthen your general analytical thinking skills, even outside of the specific topics that you're learning about in your lessons. So you, as a Pale Blue Pod listener, can get a 30-day free trial by going to brilliant.org/palebluepod. And the first 200 people who sign up using our code will get 20% off their annual subscription. Again, that's brilliant.org/palebluepod for a 30-day free trial. And then if you are early enough, if you're an early adopter, you will get 20% off your annual subscription. I have a potentially silly question.
No such thing.
What color are these cells? Is that even a question you can ask?
Yeah.
If they're that small? Okay.
So I would describe most of your neurons as clear or like white-ish. Mm-hmm. And then while they're inside your brain, while it's alive, they're going to be more like a pink color because of your blood. And then once we take them out, we can stain them for different colors. So you can get all sorts of different colors. There's a lot of really neat pictures of sort of like rainbow brains because people stain all the different cells different colors and they'll make it beautiful. I know some people are working on a version of like an animal where you could theoretically like see them, like have them like stained while they're like inside, but I haven't seen one of those.
It feels like when scientists kind of like, Moiya, correct me if I'm wrong, but like telescope images are not colorized. Like that happens later.
Yeah. We call them false color images, but I don't like that term.
Could definitely see flat earthers using that.
I know, right? They do, and they do. I like to think of it as us adding in valuable context information, so that you know, like the temperature or the density or whatever, and we're using a color map to show you the temperature difference.
Neat. Yeah, we do sometimes use that. Like, we'll go in and like color them so they're easier to see. But a lot of the times the stains are like actual stains, like what they sound like. Like, my lab uses a lot of purple stains, and so we have a bunch of brains in the lab that are purple.
Ooh, those are my high school colors.
Just a bunch of majestic royal brains.
Yeah.
They're very pretty. I think it makes them a lot prettier to look at, for sure.
Any other ways that space has influenced neuroscience?
Yes, so I have one other major instance of space influencing neuroscience, and it's going to seem like a bit of a tangent, but I promise that we will get back to the
I'll take the
space
walk.
at some point.
I trust you. Yeah. Lead us wherever you want to go.
You guys are putting so much faith in me. So in the 1960s, there was this researcher, his name was John Lilly, and he looked at a bunch of different things. One of his major interests was dolphins. He was like, dolphins look incredibly smart. They seem like they can do a lot of tricks. I think dolphins are really neat. And one day he was talking to a dolphin for whatever reason, and the dolphin made a sound back at him that he said sounded like human speech. And so he took this as a sign that the dolphins clearly want to communicate with us, and therefore it's our duty to teach them how to communicate with us. And
Of course.
of course. So he wrote this book called Man and Dolphin, where he explained his theory that dolphins want to communicate with us. We should teach them English, and we should teach them English to the point that we should have a dolphin representative at the United Nations who can represent marine creatures during these meetings.
Oh my gosh.
I would watch that.
Oh, I would love
Just
it.
for the dolphins.
That would be so fun for me.
Yeah.
But also, like, there are other animals that are as smart as dolphins, but like we don't have like chimp representation. We don't have invertebrate representation. Like, what?
Well, I'm thinking of the people on TikTok who are like teaching their dogs like how to talk with buttons.
Yes, the buttons.
And I'm like, oh, well, are we going to add, maybe we bring a dog to the UN too?
Yeah. I think this whole story always reminds me of the people who teach like gorillas how to do sign language, and I'm like, why don't we have a gorilla sign language representative?
Yeah.
Why are we teaching the dolphins English? Why can't it be another language?
Yes.
Like, maybe French or, like Mandarin would be easier for them to learn.
Oh,
We don't
maybe,
know.
yeah.
Because their communication is very tonal.
They have the
Yeah.
tones. Yeah.
So, do you guys have any possible idea how this might be connecting back to space?
I have no idea.
Oh, well, there's so many dolphins in space, so this makes sense to me.
What if
Is it the constellation? The dolphin constellation?
what if I said the name Frank Drake?
Ooh. Okay, I'm intrigued. Frank Drake, we covered the Drake equation in our SETI episode,
Yes.
and Frank Drake is the person who did that. So it has something to do with extraterrestrial life then.
So SETI is heavily featured in this story. So
Good.
Frank Drake got a hold of John Lilly's book where he was explaining that dolphins want to communicate with us. And he was like, hey, if we can teach dolphins to communicate with us, we can clearly teach aliens how to communicate with us. So this is an important
Literally.
endeavor.
Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Frank Drake made amazing contributions to science, but it seems like sometimes he had some real
He was a little off.
low quality thoughts. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love him. Carl Sagan is also about to be featured in this, and Carl Sagan also incredibly important human, but the story's wild.
Okay.
So, with Frank Drake's help, John Lilly got funding from NASA and from SETI to study these dolphins and figure out how to teach them English. And he, with NASA's money, built a giant house that he flooded with water. He waterproofed all of the walls and stuff, flooded the house with water. And this woman named Margaret Lovett lived full time with a dolphin named, I believe his name was Peter. So the logic here was, at first they were just trying to teach dolphins how to speak English in an aquarium. But they were like, well, when you're teaching a baby how to speak English, you don't stop talking to it after 5 o'clock. You go make dinner and you talk to it while you're making dinner. So they had Margaret live with this dolphin full time and speak to him all the time as if he was a human companion.
So there were some dry rooms and some wet rooms, or was she always in a
She was always
diving
with
suit?
him. She would
Oh my
she
gosh.
had a computer that was suspended from the ceiling so that she could like have electricity but also not electrocute herself in the water. She had some chairs that like were above the water but like her feet would be dangling in it. And she would talk about how like Peter would come up and like nuzzle her feet to like try to get her attention.
Okay, I'm so nervous. If this is me,
Yeah.
I would be so nervous that we trust these cables to suspend my computer and not like drop it
Yeah.
into this bath.
And what I love about her is like they've done a million interviews with her. I believe she died somewhat recently, but before that they did a bunch of interviews with her, and she was like, yeah, the first night that I spent in this dolphin house, it seemed wild. I was like, what am I doing with my life? But then everything just seemed really natural.
No, that happens every time you get a new roommate.
So true.
Exactly.
That's true.
We've all moved into a new house and had to flood the bottom floor for our roommate.
It happens all the
Every
time.
single one of us has had that experience, yes.
Yes. So Margaret lives full time with this dolphin, and supposedly she did eventually get the dolphin to say hello, Margaret, which is a huge accomplishment.
Like, just like that. Like, the words, hello, Margaret, would come out of this dolphin's mouth.
Allegedly.
Supposedly, I cannot find an audio recording of it, but yeah, allegedly the dolphin would say,
Their mouth is such a different shape than ours. I'm like, how
Yeah.
would they to get the M sound? What's that like?
right?
That's what's tripping you
Yeah,
up.
I'm like,
the
I don't buy
M
it.
sound.
That's so funny that you mentioned the M sound, because she has specifically said the M sound was what tripped him up the most.
Wow, I'm a genius,
You're
everybody.
You are
If
a
I am
genius.
anything, it is the psychic. So
And this is where Carl Sagan enters the story also. So Carl Sagan comes to visit because through the SETI connection, he's heard about this. And he comes to visit and he goes, hey, why are you trying to teach the dolphins to speak English? That's clearly hard for them. We should be learning how to speak dolphin.
Finally, someone
So-
with some sense.
I think I stand with that. I think I agree.
Someone with reason. So they had two other dolphins that they would like observe communicating with each other and try to like translate dolphin for us.
Okay.
So we could eventually speak it. The small issue with that is I used to know someone who studied dolphins, and dolphins actually communicate through a lot of things other than sound. Like, this guy that I knew who studied dolphins, apparently they like pee in each other's mouths to like communicate their names.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Morgan, you need to stop blowing my mind.
And everyone's pee is a little bit different.
Yeah, they would know the difference between like one dolphin's pee or another dolphin's pee.
Wow.
But the fact that it's like their identifier, you know,
Yeah.
that your pee tells someone who you are.
Yeah, it's like, hello, my name is...
Yeah. It's humans who are crazy for not doing it.
Exactly.
You're right.
I mean, all other animals like sniff each other in all sorts of
Yeah.
places.
Oh, I'm literally crying.
But yeah, so Carl Sagan spent a while trying to convince John Lilly to look at teaching us to speak dolphin instead of teaching dolphins to speak English. But eventually, as all researchers do, John Lilly got a little distracted and he started doing a lot of LSD.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
as you do. As you do. When you're studying dolphins, yeah.
It was the 60s.
Yeah.
60s.
So he was like, if we can't like communicate with dolphins now, on the different plane that you go to when you're on LSD, probably we could communicate with them on that plane.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the problem was that people weren't on enough drugs to do
Yeah.
this experiment.
That's
Exactly.
exactly what we needed.
So he gave the dolphins LSD. And the dolphins couldn't communicate on LSD. They were
No.
but if you were this man, you've given the dolphin LSD, the dolphin has not really responded to it. What is your next step, do you think?
Well, if I was thinking like this man, I would be like, they need more LSD.
That's a good option. His idea was, what if I also did LSD at the same time?
Oh, I already assumed he was doing it with them. Is that
Same.
so insane of me?
No, I
I'm
also
like,
assumed
of course
that.
he's doing it with them because they're trying to get on the same level.
Right, yeah. No, that's the plan.
But I like his scientific approach of like, let's try one and then I'll join.
right, you change one variable at a time.
Yes, exactly.
He also tried this with ketamine, and
Okay.
that also did not do anything.
Why would it?
because of this altered state, it would really help. He had a lot of really interesting writings that he did while he was on LSD about how he was going to communicate with aliens and how the aliens were trying to help us, and so we needed to talk to them.
The confidence I need.
Yeah.
I aspire.
So shockingly, he never succeeded in learning to talk to dolphins, and so we'll never be able to communicate with alien life because we can't communicate with dolphins.
It's a one-to-one relationship, yeah.
Exactly. But what I thought was really interesting whenever I was learning about this is that nowadays there's a lot of people who are still convinced, like in the same way that we can teach gorillas sign language, like that we could teach dolphins to communicate with us, but they can't get any funding for it because the whole John Lilly story is so surrounded in scandal. I didn't even cover like half of the scandal that they were like, no one will give them any money for it because people are worried this will happen again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you got to get some private funding for that shit.
Yeah.
I want to know what happened to this thread of thought about us learning to speak dolphin / us learning to identify people by peeing in their mouths. Because
Right.
that seems like it could be good research.
I think it's viable for sure.
Wow. Yeah, you said, you put in the outline, in parentheses, this is a wild story. I could not,
So true.
in a million years, have guessed that this is where the dolphin story was going to take us.
I was worried you had maybe already heard of it because NASA was involved, but I feel like NASA probably tried to bury them.
Yeah, they were like, wait a second, that had nothing to do with us.
Yeah, they were like, no, we didn't do that.
No.
They're very proud of a lot of their accomplishments. They put it up in their various buildings. This
Not
one
that
did
one.
not make it onto the wall.
I wonder why.
There's a lot of dolphin statues around Staten Island. Like they had a bunch of artists like kind of do their own take on each statue, and there was like a school assignment when I was a kid where it was like find them and take pictures of them.
Aww.
And this will be all I think about when I see them again.
Yeah, I mean, it's much better than a lot of the stories about dolphins, so I think it works.
So true. Yeah, when you start digging into how dolphins actually behave, it's kind of terrifying.
I know, and they're so cute. It's really upsetting.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't want to communicate with them.
Probably not. What if they're all doing their own acid?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, they have dolphin drugs.
I think I saw something that they do, like, poke pufferfish on purpose to get, like, the pufferfish poison
I
stuff
love
to get
that.
high.
Oh my gosh. Of course
But
they
also,
do.
like, elephants also get drunk. Like, they'll get, like, a bunch of, like, fruits in their trunk and let it, like, ferment so that they can get drunk. So, like, everyone everywhere always wants a way to relax.
Everyone needs an escape. I get it.
Exactly.
A healthy escape.
Yeah, we are, I say it again, we're not special.
Yeah.
No.
And especially when you're being forced to live in a house with this person of a different species that you've never met. Of
Yes.
course you're going to want some LSD.
Yes, exactly. This is where I finally watched Arrival for the first time like a few weeks ago,
Ooh.
which is like a classic, but a lot of the same themes of like language and communication and
Yeah.
aliens. So give it a watch, listeners.
That's probably not something we'll do a review of because it's not super spacey, but I've seen it. I love it.
It's like actually very good too. I love it.
Yeah.
I do think it's really funny how we're always like trying to teach the aliens or the dolphins how to communicate with us, and we're like, you can learn my language, but I will not learn yours.
Yes.
Well, that's because so many of these stories are done in the West, and like especially in
Yeah.
the US,
Yeah.
where we are so bad at learning other languages.
And we're so egocentric in that way where
Right.
it's like with the way I do it is the best way. Like you come to me.
Yeah, like I even had to watch myself talking about this story, like, because I'm saying that we're trying to learn dolphin, but I can't say we're trying to teach them dolphin human because the humans speak a bunch of different languages.
Right, right.
But-
Maybe they do.
Yeah, and I don't know about dolphins specifically, but I know like dogs and cats speak languages. They, like, you can teach a dog German and English or something, and
Yes.
they'll, when they communicate with each other, like if you have like a German dog and an English dog, they might have some more like behavior issues because of a language
Oh,
barrier.
Interesting. I've seen like videos online of people being like, we just adopted this dog and it turns out he knows Spanish and not English.
Yes, those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Or like super intense dog trainers that only teach the dogs German commands or something.
Yeah. The drama.
Wow, that might be the best story I've ever heard.
You're welcome.
I laughed, I cried, my jaw spent like a large amount of time dropped. You know, that was great. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
I think the stories of brains influencing space studies, there aren't as many of them, and they aren't as interesting. Nothing could ever beat that story. Truly, Morgan, nothing could ever beat the dolphin story. But there is this one thing that I love to bring up. It's called Boltzmann brains. Have you ever heard of Boltzmann brains?
No, and I wanted to look it up so bad when I saw it on the outline, but I want to be surprised, so I held myself back.
Okay, cool. I gave a presentation on Boltzmann brains pre-pandemic, and the crowd was pretty split. Half of them were like, this is really cool, and half of them were like, this is pretty dumb. Why did you waste my time telling me about this? Because, and I'll give you the punchline right up front, this is not a real thing. And the Boltzmann brain was just like basically a mean girl rumor type of thing that some scientists started about another scientist.
Oh no,
That's so mean.
So let's go back in time to the 1800s. In the second half of the 1800s, the field of thermodynamics was really starting to take off, including the famous second law of thermodynamics. Do either of you happen to know it off the top of your head?
Well, I don't know the law, but my twin brother studied thermodynamics in school, so let me channel him real quick.
so you're basically an expert.
Yeah, in a way.
It's pretty
By
much.
law.
Yeah, twins
Yeah.
share knowledge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the second law of thermodynamics is the one that says the entropy of a closed system is always increasing. In other words, if you have a closed system and like energy isn't moving in or out of the system, that system is always going to trend towards chaos and disorder.
That's definitely where my brain goes.
Yes. Yeah. So that is a law. That is one thing that we've observed over and over again in labs and in observation out in the real world. But when we look at the universe, it seems to be very ordered. There are particles on the milli and micro scales. There are planets orbiting stars that orbit the centers of galaxies, that orbit the centers of galaxy clusters. It feels very structured in a fun, hierarchical way. Fun if you really like organization. But this Austrian physicist at the end of the 19th century was really confused by this. How can this rule still be true if we see an ordered universe? And he came up with two possible explanations. The first, which we now know is probably true, is that the universe just happened to start in a pretty ordered or low entropy state. And so the fact that we see a lot of order now is just a consequence of how the universe started. The other explanation he gave, which we are now pretty sure is bonkers, is that all of the order in the universe is actually due to random fluctuations. You have trillions of particles moving around. Given enough time, they're going to arrange themselves into weird little configurations. Mm-hmm. That type of universe where all of the planets and stars and galaxies and whatever are just a consequence of random fluctuations, that's called a Boltzmann universe. Other scientists at the time, so Boltzmann's contemporaries, they thought that he was being silly. And so they took his hypothesis of the Boltzmann universe to the extreme, and they said, oh, well, instead of random fluctuations leading to an entire ordered universe, what if all of that randomness just led to the formation of a much smaller, simpler object, like, for example, a human brain, full of all of the neural pathways that would give that brain thoughts and memories and a personality to make it like a real person that believed that it was observing a very structured universe. And so the Boltzmann brain became this term that they were using to make fun of Ludwig Boltzmann, which sucks, but also his idea sucked, so whatever. And now it's become this thing that pseudo-science-y people, like people who think they know way more about physics than they actually do, they'll bring up the idea of a Boltzmann brain. Like, what if you are not a human on a planet in a solar system, in a galaxy, in the universe? What if you are just a brain floating through the universe because of random fluctuations, and you believe that you're observing this world and universe around you?
What if?
Oh my gosh.
What if? And it's like a fun, I'm not going to call it fun. It's this thought experiment that, like the type of people who really get into the simulation hypothesis, they also like to bring up Boltzmann brains.
Yeah.
But it is not a real thing.
So it's so funny that you bring up the simulation hypothesis because I was looking up like some of the similarities between neuroscience and astrophysics. And one of the things that I found was this article that was explaining that the human brain is 25% neurons and 75% water. And space is 25% matter and 70% dark matter.
Dark energy.
Dark energy.
Sorry, that was...
No, you're fine. I don't know the difference, so I will accept what you say. But so clearly they're the same thing because they have these same portions. And then in this article, underneath in the recommended section, was the simulation theory. But what I thought was super funny is I don't know if those numbers are correct for space, but for the human brain, it's like they very much cherry pick numbers to make it fit with space because people say the human brain is anywhere between like 70 and like 85% water. And they were like, we're going to get 75 to fit with what we're saying.
Wow.
Of course.
It's so devious.
Yeah. But there's also, Boltzmann brains reminds me of like in undergrad, I went through this really deep like philosophy phase, as we all do. And I found this one version of like a philosophy of how we don't actually have any free will. And the theory was because the universe is like constantly expanding and the universe like came together to make us as people, that maybe we're not actually our own people, but we are the universe like acting through us. And so we're not making decisions, but like the universe is making decisions to make us do different things. And our whole life was like set in motion by the Big Bang.
Ooh, I buy it.
I mean, sometimes that's how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there are also a lot of physicists and scientists who would say if you knew exactly how all of the like fundamental particles in the universe were arranged, including all the fundamental particles that make up us and our brains, that you would be able to perfectly predict everything that comes next. Like if you had a powerful enough computer, which again gets into the simulation hypothesis. But no, maybe I'm wrong. I don't care. I choose to believe that I have free will.
Yeah. I mean, we're here now, so what does it matter?
Yeah, totally.
I feel really bad for that dude, though, that his friends chose to use their free will to bully him.
Yes. Unless there are other Boltzmanns, and there might be. He we have the Boltzmann coefficient. We have other things that were named after him, so like he did fine for himself.
Good for him.
Yeah. We're almost at the top of the hour, but I would love to know about this NASA brain twin study.
Yeah,
thing.
I'll try to make it fast. So basically in like 2015, NASA had this set of twins, and one of the twins was like, hey, I want to retire. And they were like, but you have both been astronauts, so you've both been in space for like a similar periods of time. They didn't go on the exact same mission, so they weren't in space for the exact same period of time. But they have theoretically the same genetic makeup. They've both been in space, and now one of them was going to stay on the ground and one of them was going to go to space. And so the twin who stayed on the ground, he went to NASA and was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you took a bunch of samples from me and my brother and saw like what the difference is? And the NASA scientists were like, yeah, that's a really smart idea. Why didn't we think of that?
Why didn't they think of that?
I know these twins from the space. Well, I don't know them personally, but like Mark and Scott
I was about
Kelly.
to be so impressed, yeah.
No.
Do all twins just know each other, Corinne?
All twins. There's like a meetup. No, their name's Mark and Scott Kelly, and I'm pretty sure Mark is a senator. Mark Kelly's a senator.
Mark is the one who stayed on the ground.
Oh, well, because he's got a lot of work to do.
Cool.
Yeah, because I was looking up interviews with him because, so he's the one who stayed on the ground. I was like, man, wouldn't it suck to be like the twin who was on the ground and then you have this famous like astronaut brother?
Yeah.
So, but it was actually his idea, so everything's fine. He has said that he would like to go back to space someday, but he was okay with being on the ground. So they ran a bunch of tests on the twins, like before the one went into space and while they were both in space and then while they were both on the ground. like afterwards. What I thought was really funny is in the paper that they released afterwards, they had to say, like, in their methods section, how they got the samples back from the brother who was in space. And they were, like, very scientific about, like, oh, these samples were put in this type of bag, and then they were sent down in a Soyuz capsule, and they were sent back to Earth. But in, like, actuality, like, the samples they were collecting were, like, poop. So they were, like, we sent poop back to Earth in a capsule.
That's so funny.
What can you learn about the brain by studying poop?
So that wasn't the brain portion. They ran like a million tests on these guys. Yeah.
Okay.
You actually can learn a little bit though. A lot of people measure cortisol in poop. It's a very easy way to get cortisol measurements, which is one way to look at stress. You can learn some stuff, but luckily that's not what I do.
I believe it.
So for the brain stuff, they ran a bunch of like cognitive tests while they were like on this. He went to the International Space Station and then he came back. So they ran a bunch of tests. He was there for a year. There were some really neat results. They in like other fields of biology are really cool. So I recommend people look it up. But for the brain stuff, what they found was the one who was in space had more risk-taking behavior than his brother. Ooh. But his willingness to like take risks decreased over the course of him being in space. So at the beginning, he was like more willing to, I guess, like put himself in harm's way for like a reward, and that like got smaller throughout his duration in space.
Whoa.
Why?
So one theory for all of the cognitive changes I'm going to say is mostly just like stress. So theoretically, astronauts love being in space, but also it must be an incredibly stressful experience of like, what happens if a door opens or something?
Yeah.
I was like, it can't have anything to do with radiation or the cosmic rays or the microgravity. Like that's not going to affect personality.
Right. Well, the microgravity could be an explanation for one of the other things is that his ability to learn through like visual objects, like showing like a bunch of shapes and learning those, decreased throughout his stay. And one of the theories for that is that astronauts actually, their eyeballs, like the shape of their eyeball changes while they're in space because of the gravity situation.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yes, we talk about this a lot at the Space Center. Like your vestibular system keeps your balance, and when you're in the ISS, you're in a constant state of free fall, and you like totally lose track of like what's up and what's down. It actually like doesn't matter, and they've like decided internally like what to call what. But yeah, your eyes. We had these really fun goggles at the Space Center that were like had a prism. They were really cool, and we would have kids like try to write their name in when they're feeling this confusion, and like the way it would flip your vision, and that your vision's not flipped, but you get that feeling of like confusion and have to like settle into it.
That's super neat. Yeah, one of the other things is that they lose their sense of proprioception, which is your ability to know where you are in relation to everything else. So like if you close your eyes, you know where your hand is.
Yes.
And they actually really struggle with that while they're in space.
Yes, that was exactly what we would ask the kids, is kind of like close your eyes and raise your hand, and like how do you know, like put your hand up, and like which way is that? Yeah. And there's a really cool mission patch I just discovered for this study. NASA makes like a mission patch for each mission that they do, and I will make sure to include the twin mission patch in our Instagram post.
Oh my god, that's so cool. So then the last thing that they found also was that the one who was in space, his ability to recognize emotions actually got like declined while he was in space.
Oh.
But that one's really interesting from like a psychology perspective, because you could argue that's the stress of space or that it's like some other stuff that's going on. But I looked up and there's only like 7 people on the International Space Station.
There's not a lot up there.
No, you're pretty isolated.
And if you're there for a year, I would imagine all of your people skills get a little rusty.
Yes, and also they're not, I mean, like everyone speaks like English and Russian in the ISS, but not everyone is American. So maybe
there's a lot of
it's
different
like
social
there's some
cues.
barriers there in like communication and culture, I imagine.
Yeah. So those are the main like cognitive effects that they found, but they also found that a lot of this went away like after he had been back for a little bit. So it changes like while you're in space, but then once you get back, it's a little different. And the main point of them like reporting all this stuff was to look at, okay, well, what can we do better in the future to help like future astronauts? And one of their solutions, because a lot of the cognitive changes that could happen could sort of like, if they were taken to a more severe degree, could harm your ability to like get back to Earth, or like if something were to mess up on the rocket and you struggle with like recognizing objects, you would have a harder time repairing it. So NASA's solution that they argued was to make a lot more of the post-flight stuff like automated, so that we don't have to worry about if the humans are bad at their skills, which I thought was a really interesting solution.
That is really funny.
Right. Yeah, that's always the solution. Well, let's just make a robot do it.
Yeah.
Make a machine do it.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, these guys seem really cool, though. I watched a few interviews with them, and they seem really neat.
Yeah, Mark Kelly definitely has a big fan base.
Yes, they do. When I was writing a play like years ago, and I was like, I think I want it to be about Mark and Scott Kelly trying to plan their birthday party, like after all the space stuff comes out. I'm gonna have to dig up my notes on that and see what I jotted down.
I wonder if they
do.
did, since one of them would have been in space for their birthday. Manage that.
And then, speaking as a twin, I know what it's like to share a birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you do joint birthday parties?
We don't now. Like, we don't live in the same place now. When we were kids, like, and we had the same friend group for a while, so, like, that made it super easy.
Nice.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah. I've learned so much. I've laughed so hard. I'm never going to forget this dolphin story.
I'm so glad.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Morgan. Can you tell the listeners how to find you and your work on the interwebs?
Oh, absolutely. So I do a lot of science communication on TikTok and YouTube. I'm at Ask a Neuroscientist on both of those. I technically have a Twitter called Ask a Neuro, but I think I tweeted for the first time like a year recently.
It's a dumpster fire there. You're not missing much.
Yeah, I technically have a website. I forget the URL, but it's Ask a Neuroscientist something, so they can look me up there.
Yeah, that will be in the episode description down below. And I feel like that sludgy coffee that you started, it's ready, so we can... Yeah, we can go measure its viscosity and see how oozy it is. But that does mean that we're going to stop this episode. But Morgan, do you maybe want to tell the listeners like a lesson about how they can view themselves in relation to the universe?
A little tagline, perhaps?
Yeah. You are made of space.
Yay! Yeah, you are. That's coming from a neuroscientist, so it's true on so many levels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would never lie to you.
Pale Blue Pod was created by Moiya McTier and Corinne Caputo with help from the Multitude Productions team. Our theme music is by Evan Johnston, and our cover art is by Shay McMullen. Our audio editing is handled by the incomparable Misha Stanton.
Stay in touch with us and the universe by following @PaleBluePod on Twitter and Instagram, or check out our website, palebluepod.com. We're a member of Multitude, an independent podcast collective and production studio. If you like Pale Blue Pod, you will love the other shows that live on our website at multitude.productions.
If you want to support Pale Blue Pod financially, join our community over at patreon.com/palebluepod. For just about $1 per episode, you get a shout out on one of our shows and access to director's commentary for each episode. The very best way, though, to help Pale Blue Pod grow is to share it with your friends. So send this episode, this link, to one person who you think will like it, and we will appreciate you for forever.
Thanks for listening to Pale Blue Pod. You'll hear us again next week.
Bye.